My paper is about government published history textbook, and what you want from me was the link.
Yeah, but first tell me what the first tell me what the topic is about.
Okay.
So basically, right now there's a big debate in Korea.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the big debate about? What does the government go on?
There are many controversies between the private publisher and the government published textbook.
Right.
So now we are choosing the private publishers who have certification to make the textbook.
Okay.
So in these circumstances, these days there's many problems in the in the private textbooks. So there are many discussions, and for example, the 교학사 textbook is 0%. There's no school who choose the 교학사 textbook, and because the textbook was thought to be a kind of the 교학 textbook represent the wrong history. So
that's fine.
Yeah.
So, but the main controversy is what? Should the government?
Should the government go back to the government published history book?
Right.
So
because when did the government? So 옛날에는 in the old days, which government published textbook? Do you remember? Which president? Come on, the bad one.
이명박.
Oh, not that bad. Really bad one.
박정희?
Yeah, 박정희. You know, 박정희. I think what 전두환.
Yeah.
During 박정희 and 전두환, the government had a monopoly, right, on textbook, on history textbook. So there was only one history textbook with 박정희, 전두환, right?
Yeah.
And then when did it change? 언제 바꿨어?
It changed 19. I'm not sure about the
Okay, let's just
history textbook, but the main textbook was 1960s. That was changed to government published, and the history textbook is 2013.
Anyway, the bottom line is, when the South Korea was ruled by dictators, so from 1960s to 1980s, the government published the history textbook. It was a monopoly, okay? But in the 1990s, government did a big change. So now textbooks are published by private companies, and not school, but each school district, right?
Okay.
So each school district chooses what history textbook to use, okay? So basically we're copying the Japan system. Japan is doing the same way, okay? But because some of the private textbooks were controversial, they said controversial things, some people say we should go back to the national government textbook, okay? And you're saying it's a good idea or bad idea?
I think that's a bad idea.
Why?
Because if we use the state-authored textbook, we could have just one narrow point of view, especially government-friendly textbook.
Okay.
So the historians have to watch the government's mind,
Okay.
and if they don't, they will lose their jobs like professors, or they will be filed in like Korean history institutions, something like that.
That's fine. So that's the strongest argument against government monopoly, right? What's the strongest argument for?
The main reason I have to choose the private was the one is development of history.
Okay.
Because when we use the variable point of view, we could interpret history, the many different ways. So we can think of the history as our and history became the like the
Kind of contested.
what
Okay, maybe what Mr. Zhang is saying that, okay, I think what Mr. Zhang is trying to say maybe is that the argument for government textbook is that way you have more unity, okay? Because if you allow private textbooks, some local school districts will use very liberal textbooks, you know, Bukhan is gray or something like that, right? And then some school districts will use like, you know, very conservative, you know, bargaining, okay? But if you have a national textbook, then we have more united history, okay? I don't know. Has anyone heard of the term bargaining? Or no? What does bargaining mean? What color is that?
red.
Red, okay? In the old days, I remember like in the 70s, when I was going to school in Korea, you know, like people who were like socialists and communists were considered really, really what? Good or bad? Yeah, bad, right? And we used to call them like bargaining. That means red, okay? But recently, since the 90s, we kind of revised our view. So like, at least the communists, well, Bukhan's still bad, but the communists in South Korea or socialists or anti-government activists, they're not called bargaining anymore. Okay, they're considered like, you know, democracy fighters. So the history books have really changed. Okay. Anyway, so that's one thing. The second thing is that, you know, do we want a united history book or do we want like a divided history book? Do you see? So I think there's, you know, there's good arguments for both sides. So what's better, divided or united?
Divide is better.
Why? Don't you like 통일?
I like 통일, but not 통일 in textbook.
Okay, that's fine. So he's saying that, you know, maybe we don't need unity for, you know, for intellectual thinking. Okay. And I guess the question is, who should decide? Should it be the central government or the local government?
For what?
Because if you do private textbooks, that means it's the local school district that decides, right? Should it be the local school district or the national school district? I mean, or the national government? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right.
Local schools, and in that school there is teachers and they can choose, they can review all
really?
the textbooks. Yeah. And they choose each of the school.
Is it each school or is it the whole school?
Each
district?
school.
Oh, each school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you see his claim? Okay. Now, how would you link that to the reading?
I want to link that to about the education, because when we choose the private textbooks, the teachers could have the right of choose.
Right of choice.
And ability to teach.
I understand. And that all sounds fine, but if you want to make this a good class essay, you need to tell me how this links to key concepts, arguments, examples from class readings. Okay? So one example might be like, you know, like we read So, right? I forgot the first names. Okay? But you know, Miss So, she wrote about education and identity, right? She said like textbooks in a way represent who we are, our identity, right? And so like, and she talks about how textbooks have really changed, right? So there's still like Confucian values, but then there's other things that's kind of overlaid too, okay? And so maybe one way is that like, you know, maybe Korea has become more like intellectually more diverse, more pluralistic, okay? And so because Koreans are more intellectually diverse, we no longer demand that we all agree. Do you understand? So so one argument is that, you know, the change to like private textbooks and local school choice in a way reflects our new Korean identity, as opposed to like, you know, 70s and 80s. Do you see? Then you can link it to the readings.
Yeah.
Okay? Then it's a stronger essay. Does that help?
Yeah. Okay. That's one that I want to
That you want to do?
plus,
Okay.
but
Good Then do it.
Okay, that one might be the midterm one, Levi says.
Yeah, that's fine. But I would have given you A+ if you thought of that on your own.
I was thought, but you turned first.
Then jump.
I think of something that was from in the government textbook. They cannot cover some, like something like LGBT, like
Okay.
because that's kind of controversy. There are many controversies, so the government don't want to touch that sensitive ideas.
So it's better to do it private.
Yeah.
Okay.
If so.
That's actually a second argument. Okay, you can link that to Rennie Moon. She used to teach here, by the way. Because Rennie Moon, remember Rennie Moon? She says that do most textbooks talk about LGBT? Yes or no?
No.
No, but there's a few, right? So most textbooks do not, because most schools they don't want to touch that. Okay, but there's a few textbooks that do talk about it, because there are a few schools that do want to talk about LGBT. Do you see? And so in a way, by allowing private textbooks, this will actually encourage more like kind of diverse ways of thinking, diverse ways of discussion. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right. So if you want, you can link it to like Rennie Moon as well. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Good job. Yay, Mr. John. Okay, Seyoung, you're next. Come on up. This class is right. Hurry up! We have to finish this, and we have class. We have team meeting, and we have to talk about Chimek. All right. Okay. Tell us.
I deal with same topics.
That's fine.
It's fine.
So, what's your main claim, and tell me how you made it better. Okay.
My main claim is that relationship between Korea and Japan can become better
How?
through spreading Hallyu.
Okay, explain.
So I suggest two methods. One is bottom up and the other one is top down.
Okay, what's your example of bottom up?
Bottom up is that sorry. Bottom up is that
Hurry up! You get no job.
teach. I found that in 2013, Korean government planned an idea contest on spreading Korean soft power. So about 300 teams applied for it, and 10 most in creative projects were
That's fine.
selected.
So,
And
so Miss Seyoung is saying you can do like a
Miss
partnership.
Seyoung?
What?
Miseum?
Miss Seyoung? You like Miss Seyoung? Okay. So Miss Seyoung Kim is saying that we can do a partnership between government and society, right? So government can hold this competition for the best ideas from citizens. Okay. Well, my question is, how is that going to improve Korea-Japan ties? 어떻게? Because actually the biggest criticism from Cassidy and from other people is that Korean Hallyu leads to this kind of a reaction from other countries, right? Hong Kong, Japan, China. There's kind of an anti-Hallyu reaction. Why? Because Hallyu is seen as very what? When you think of Hallyu, you think of what? What kind of way?
I don't know. Hello?
No, Korean way.
Hear me?
Yes, Hallyu, right?
Mm.
Korean way, right? Hanguk way, right? And so like, I don't know, it's like,
I thought the limits are there's no diversity, so government can get ideas from.
that's one limit. But that's a limit, but that's in terms of creativity, right? But then your question is, how can you build up ties for culture? How can I improve Korea-Japan ties through culture, right? And so I'm just saying that the biggest argument against Hallyu is that it's seen as too Korean, too government. Okay, something that's promoted by the Korean government to promote Korean culture. But if I live in, but imagine like you live in Korea, right? And then there's all these like J-pop, J-drama, and it's being promoted by Japan to show, it's being promoted by Japanese government to show how great Japan is. Is that something that people were like in Korea? Maybe not, right? Because it seems like you keep on telling us why why this other country is so good, okay? And so that leads to kind of a reaction, okay?
But by including society, that point will be alleviated.
Alleviated? Okay, so maybe less government. There might be reduced, so maybe a little bit less government. But then it's still seen as very Korean. So how can you make it seen as less Korean? Do you understand?
Get an idea from diverse
Yeah, make it more like,
actors.
yeah, so don't make it Hallyu, just make it you. Just wait. Do you understand? So just make it like interesting cultural products that happen to be made by Koreans. You know? It could be Koreans only or Koreans and other people. But it's not seen as like Korean. Do you see? So for example, like Gravity, nobody pushed Gravity to see like, watch Gravity, Mexico's so great. Oh, Mexico. No, they didn't do that. Okay? Yeah, it was seen as a what? Gravity was seen as just a really great what? Mexico? No. No, this is a great movie, right? You see? It wasn't. Okay. The movie sucked.
The special effects were good.
Okay.
The storyline might be.
It didn't make you so proud of humanity. Okay, anyway. He just doesn't like humanity. Okay? He's a robot. Anyway. He likes Terminator. Okay. So I'm just saying that, so good way is like, try to think about what other authors have said, right? Try to think deeply. How can I really develop ties through culture? Is promoting more Hallyu in Japan? Is it going to promote, Korea-Japan ties? Or is this going to lead to kind of a reaction? Because you already see a bit of a backlash, okay? And so maybe, and so you can think of like, what do other people do, okay? Maybe one way is to kind of de-emphasize the Korean part, or try to either de-emphasize or try to kind of encourage this kind of Korea-Japan like interaction, okay? So maybe we promote Hallyu, but we also accept J-pop. Do you understand? So for example, if like Park Geun-hye said, like, we love Japan, we love anime, I love Dragon Ball Z, okay? Then maybe it would be more neutral, right? But if Park Geun-hye is not gonna do that, then maybe we should just kind of de-politicize it. Do you understand? Okay. Otherwise, it was good. I give you an A minus. Okay. All right. So, I don't want you to worry about grades. Okay. Just a lot of people like you don't have a lot of experience writing essays. You might get like B or B plus. As long as you work hard in this class, participate, you get an A minus. Okay. My main concern is I just want you to like think and just write better essays. Okay. Like, am I right? Okay. Under what conditions can I be wrong? Okay. Then then it makes me feel good as a teacher to see growth. If you write a perfect paper, then good for you. But that means I don't have anything to do. So okay. All right. The last paper was Sean. That's you, Sean. Come on up. Yes, this class is right. Did anybody watch Price is Right? They always say like, come on up, the Price is Right. All right. Okay. Sean, come here. Okay. Clip, talk to me. Okay, what's your paper about?
Yeah, it's about the essay Globalization, Citizenship, Education, Diversity in South Korea, and South Korean civic textbooks. And Well, basically, what I said is that you can't really assess Korean diversity and the way it's handled, like with the citizenship education according to Western standards and according to how things were implemented or whatever in Western countries. And I said it according to the example of America and what other country did I say?
America versus Korea.
Yeah, America versus Korea. Yes, yeah, actually, yes, America versus Korea, and then, yeah, that's
Right.
that was my.
Right. So Sean's basically saying that, like, these days in Korea we're talking, you read Rennie Moon, right? She's saying right now we have a lot of textbooks that talk about minorities and disadvantaged groups. And Sean is saying that, well, a lot of this ideas of diversity education comes from the United States, but U.S. has a very different history than Korea. How is U.S. so different from Korea?
Well, you had the segregation in America, so I think that like America is very unique in that way, and even other countries like that didn't say that in the textbook. Like if you would compare it, for instance, to South Africa, also like that one also has segregation, but even then, even there, it's different. Like so, it's very in America they had it had like all the, it's basically founded on all those different people coming from different places, and then they had this really dark history of slavery, and then of course like Korea doesn't have it like that with the people that are coming here now, because we already talked about how homogenous it is. So they don't, the reasons why there should be citizenship education are completely different ones in the States than that they would be here, because there was a negative situation. It was necessary, kind of.
So Sean is saying that because some groups were oppressed in America, those groups such as who?
Just as African Americans, for
Such
instance.
as African Americans, they need affirmation of their identity. They need identity politics, right? But you're saying that doesn't really apply in the Korean context.
Yeah, because I think that there were exactly oppressed groups in the United States, and then in Korea, I feel that these groups. Well, I don't know if it's like that, but this is the impression I got, right? That they don't really want to be recognized as different. They want to be part of it, and don't want to be separated from it or recognized in a special way or anything like this. And so I think that my end claim is that you don't have that. I think that maybe they shouldn't focus on the differences, but focus on what they have in common, like that, instead of pointing out this is different about you, this different about you, this different about you. More like, oh look, we have we have the same value in this, and we have the same value in that, and stuff like that. Because it's like positive and like versus it being able to be construed in negative light.
That's fine. So I give you a couple of comments. One is that you understand our claim, right? America, Korea is different. They have different policies. And then my critique was that one, actually, like USA and Korea may not be that different, because according to new textbooks talk about the disadvantaged groups in Korea. They include not just migrants, but also women, the handicapped, indigenous, Chinese, also North Korean refugees. Okay, and you can argue that for some of these groups, such as women, that they actually had a harder time in Korea than in America, right? Do you guys remember did you guys read about women's history in textbook or drama? So 옛날에 was what? It was really bad, right? Right, and then especially if you take my earlier class, International Organization, you're gonna read a couple of chapters from the Comfort Woman, okay? And it used to be like there's a small section in the book about how like Korea's always invaded, right, from different tribes. And then one time like this tribe from like Manchuria came, they kidnapped a bunch of Korean women, okay? And then the women, and then they were like and they despoiled them, okay? The women later escaped and they tried to go back to their hometowns, but none of the women were accepted by their families because they were no longer pure, okay? And so all the women were like exiled from their families, so they basically all committed suicide. sad story. Okay. And so, anyway, so I think because of that, strong like history of inequality, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're very strong women's movement in Korea. Korea has the largest women's university in the world. Did you know that? Yes. Korea is the largest women's university in the world. What is it? Right, UI. I think it's like more than like 20,000. Yeah, they're huge. They even have PhD programs. Okay, because so it's like, in a way, like Korea has a stronger expression of women's identity, women's institutions than even like America does. Okay, because of this very like, very partly because of this oppressed history. And also more recently is that like in the 50s and 60s we had a lot of a lot of mixed race children, like American soldiers, okay, like Times War, right, the football player, and they were very discriminated in Korea. So I think because of this history of oppression and discrimination, there is, even in Korea, there's this demand for to recognize these people. That's part one. And part two is that like minorities in USA, that they also don't like identity politics. And they kind of separate it. So in California, 40% of Hispanics and a majority of Asian voters, they actually voted to eliminate bilingual education. They say, we do not want to take classes in Spanish or Korean. We want to take classes in English with everybody else.
Yeah, but there's also plenty of Hispanics that want to have classes in Spanish. And also Black History Month, I know like that Black people really are proud of that in the United States, and they want to in schools and stuff like that, and they even say, why do we have to have a month? We should have this all through the year and stuff like that. And they want to be recognized more, and they're like, and my whole point of this was actually like that I think that Korea should not take an example on America because I think that it went horribly wrong. Like, I think it went horribly wrong there, and I think that they're probably one of the most racist country, like, where it really didn't work very well. Like, they're one people, and they're so focused on race, and so, like separated in those groups of different people. Not everywhere, but in some areas it's really bad. And
is it because of the history or because of its policies?
I think it's the focus on the differences. Like, it's the focus on that instead of what they have in common. Like, it's like elevating this all the time, that you are this and you are that, and like focusing on these differences that makes it this way. Because in other places where there isn't so much focus on that, it's not like that. In all the places
That's
where
fine.
they do it, it's like that. Like South Africa too.
The statement that Korea should not follow, that's a normative argument, right? So think about how can I make this into an empirical argument. Okay, so the empirical argument can be what? Empirical argument is that x leads to y, right? So what is the x? What is the y? So the x is policies that kind of, policies that kind of divide people.
Yeah.
And what is the y? Yeah, policy that says that we're very different
Yeah.
leads to what?
So, like,
Yeah, division. Right, division. You see? So make a very simple claim, and then give me like, and you can actually study that in both United States, Korea, and Korea. Because don't just say like America's bad, we should not follow. Let's explain why. Explain how these policies in the United States have divided people, and how similar policies in Korea are also dividing people. Because
isn't that going to be difficult for me to find those policies?
it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, isn't that going to be really difficult?
Well, in the United States, you can easily find, right?
Yeah.
And then in Korea, if you look at like Korea, like that's why like you only have to write one essay, because you can write about any topic you want, but if you're going to talk about Korea, you need to do a little research in Korea. Just go to Korea Herald, Korea Times, like Joseon English, and then just look up like multicultural policies.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then talk about why are they so controversial.
Yeah.
Okay. Or just type in Jasmine Lee, and then they will give you a lot of interesting articles too.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Right. Because we talked about Jasmine Lee before, right? That she's, you remember? Why are you so? It's like I love dividing people. So, no math. Anyway, so do you remember we talked about Jasmine Lee before?
Yeah,
in
the
class?
Chinese.
Filipino?
Yeah, and then she's presenting Korea in the
Asian
something.
Games, and also she was elected to the National Assembly.
Yeah, and then people were like, yeah, why is she doing that? She didn't have as many achievements as the other people, and she's representing the minorities there. That she was like chosen over other people that probably contributed more to whatever, and then.
Right, and the idea is that if you select somebody to represent like the minority race, then it's gonna cause like a reaction among members of the majority.
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to like selecting somebody just because they're like as a person. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, we have a lot these
Based on merit.
Yeah. These days we have a lot of foreigners in like the Korean football team, right? Football, baseball, basketball. But they're seen more as like individuals. They're not representing their race. They're not representing their country. Okay. But they're just seen as like.
Yeah, but that's a really good example. Yeah, that's true. It's a really good example because she's like representing. Because that would be a case where she would be representing how somebody elevated the differences, kind of, instead of like just making it like normal and like what they have in common, which would be merit, for
Right.
instance. If you would have that in common, right?
That's fine. So if you want, you can link it to like Han Kyung-gu, because he makes the same argument as you. So who read Han Kyung-gu? We like multiculturalism. This was like last week, week 6. We read Kim Nam-guk and Han Kyung-gu. You forgot. They're all like their memory cells. Anyway, so basically Han Kyung-gu, okay, he's one who talked about like in the old days, Japanese people came, Asian people, Chinese people came, okay, to that Korea always had migrants, okay. Hi, are you in the right class? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, welcome to class. Okay. What was I going to say? Okay. And he's saying that instead of having like multicultural education, saying how cultures are different, we should just promote education that respects human rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, read his. Why don't you read his article and look at his examples, and that way you can have some, some links and examples for your paper. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yay.
Okay. Oh, you're tight to me. Go.
I just want to write down the name.
Okay. Okay. Hyung-gu, like who has a syllabus? Han, Dr. Han. Yes. Can somebody help? Oh, the syllabus. Han. Okay, it's on, I think it's week 6. No, it's week 5. Yeah, Sean? So it's week 5 readings, Han Kyung-gu. Okay, that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, before we break up, next week we have what? Midterm, right? So, who's going to present on Tuesday? For this class? 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody else? Okay. In my other class, people said maybe we should just make it kind of, you should make the class kind of optional. But if you guys all want to come anyway, let's make it mandatory. Tuesday. Right. Maybe work with the other class that you can make this class mandatory. Okay, we're to be fair. We have too many students from the other class. Okay. So we're making Tuesday class optional, but it's extra credit if you come. Okay. Your essay is due Saturday. Okay, you have to email the essay to who? TA. Yes, not TA. Okay. I don't want like. Right. The following Saturday. Not tomorrow. You're not ready. Okay. Right, next Saturday. Shh. So you need to turn in 3 things, right? 1, essay. So give me your revised essay plus the original one with my comments on it. I want to see how much you changed. 2, summarize what you learned from 3 students, either from your team or from Hanyangmen. And then 3, you need to do evaluation. Evaluate yourself. Like I came to class, I didn't miss any class, I did everything. And I cleaned your shoes, Professor E. Okay? Evaluate yourself, evaluate at least 2 of your team members, class members, and then evaluate the class. How can you make the class better? Okay? I emailed this to you several times. And you have samples. Okay.
If you do the evaluation of people, like, can it be the same as the
IO class? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can evaluate the members of the team. So evaluate 2 or 3 people that you know the best. Okay? And be honest. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay. And also, heading, we're having a field trip today, right? Right. So we're going to meet at 5:50 at Hanyang Plaza. Some people might come late, so maybe wait 5 minutes or so. If you know you're going to come late, I emailed your phone number, right? So, you can call her, where are you? Okay? All right. So who's coming to Chimek? Yay, everyone's going, right? Almost everybody, right? All right, so I'm sick. I cannot share bodily fluid with you. Okay? You can't drink the same beer together. But I drink makgeolli with you, even if I do get sick. Yes. I hear makgeolli will kill any germs. All right. Okay. Right. Well, so week 8 is midterm, and then week 9 is speakers on Tuesday and Friday, and then Friday night we're meeting 6 o'clock, 6:10 at Hanyang Plaza, and then we're going to Cheonggyecheon. Woo! Who's been to Cheonggyecheon before? Okay, you're my anne, because I don't know how to go there. Okay? So I just know how to get to the station. So from the station, you're the leader, so I follow you. Don't take me to the gates of hell. Okay? Alright. So you are our anne, you tell us where to go. Or assign somebody. Okay? And then do we need to make reservations at Gwangjang Market? Okay, so yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we can eat pajan and makgeolli. Yeah, so yeah, so just think of your favorite place. Just take us to your favorite place at Gwangjang Market, okay? And maybe call the ajumma and say we're gonna bring 20 people. It's great for business. Make sure you save a few tables for us. Do you have a favorite ajumma there? Oh, do you have a favorite ajumma at Gwangjang Market? Anyways, so either make reservation or we're just wing it. Okay? All right. Okay. Break up into your teams. Yeah, go. Team meeting. Let's go. And while you guys are having team meeting, our TA will read Rainy Moon as background music. Okay, I was waiting for you. Alright. Rainy Moon. 뭐 먼저 읽을까? So, 이것도 읽을 수 있고. 이거 먼저 했죠? 타이틀 말고? 네. 재밌게 읽으세요. 재미없는 거는 스킵하고. 네, 감사합니다. 1시간까지. 네, thank you. This is fine. 네. 네, 예전에 the team that you joined before, unless you
The title is The Formation of the South Korean Identity Through National Curriculum in the South Korea Historical Context. conflicts, and challenges. First, introduction is a nation's identity can be considered a position of similarity and continuity as well as that of difference and rupture. The former position defines identity as a kind of culture that people with the same history and ancestors share, and does not change as time passes. According to this position, each nation has a stable and definite identity despite its tumultuous history. This nation's essential identity is based on the past and is expected to be rediscovered and recovered by various representations. On the other hand, the position of difference and rupture considers identity as something that has changed over a long history and that will continue to change, rather than a fixed essence that transcends time and culture. Therefore, according to this sense, identity is a matter of not only being but also becoming, and the process is never completed. That is, it is an ongoing process. Considering the fact that a nation's identity is based on the past and that starts with the narratives of the past, we should think of similarity and continuity as an essence of identity. However, because this identity can be influenced by discourses from within history and culture, we have to consider difference and rupture as the other inches of identity. In other words, identity is true to be formed through dialogue and negotiation between the actions of similarity and continuity and the actions of differences and rupture. This dialogue and negotiation is always political because there are conflicts and tensions over balancing power between both the axes. Regardless of this position, identity itself is a political concept and contains the politics of difference and exclusion. Identity is constructed by distinguishing it from what it is not and excluding the other. The process of differentiation and exclusion are political because they are accomplished through the action of the dominant power. The unity or international homogeneity that the identity usually assumes can be constructed out of the politics of this difference and exclusion. The politics of difference and exclusion that plays a part in the formation of a nation's identity is difficult to avoid, regardless of the position of identity. According to the position that there is an essential identity that is based on the past, this identity can be recovered and discovered through the narrative, imagination, fantasy, memory, and myth of the past. The identity that is recovered and discovered in this process tends to be fictional rather than factual, and can thus contain the politics of difference and exclusion on what we should be. On the other hand, according to the position that identity changes through time, this identity is constructed through discourses formed on specific historical and institutional context, where something that seems to be definite in a specific period can be abolished or transformed. The process of difference and exclusion in discourse and identity is affected by power relationship in a society. Hence, identity constructed in the specific historical and institutional context is the product of the politics of difference and exclusion that are implied within the discourse in context. How can we know who we are and who we should be? After the popularization of school education, this question can be answered through the curriculum. A curriculum is not just an aggregate of courses taught in schools, but also the arena in which various positions struggle for representation in the public sphere. The debate on what should be taught in school is closely related to the question of identity. Who are we and who should we be? In terms of this point, the school's curriculum can be an effective tool in creating national identity. In many countries, the school curriculum plays an important role in forming government-mandated identity. The identity embodied in the school curriculum is defined through discourses that are constructed in the historical and cultural context. These discourses related to identity are political in the sense that they require a sort of dialogue and negotiation. Therefore, by reviewing the conflicts and struggles that are related to the identity implied in the curriculum debate of a nation, we can understand not only national identity but also the politics of identity. South Korea has arrived at its present state after going through the formative process of becoming a modern democratic nation, a process that has spanned the last 2 centuries of its 5,000-year history. Korea's contemporary history is a tumultuous journey that stretches through the dynastic era to the present age of globalization. Throughout this period, Korea's national identity has developed through conflicts between the traditional values of the past and the newly accepted values of the present. Conflicts over national identity continue, amplified by globalization. The Korean identity is now defined through a struggle between ethnic powers that strive to maintain traditional values and ideas and global powers that have emerged through the new social changes brought about by globalization. In other words, the conflicts between the position of similarity and continuity and that of difference and rupture, which is related to the construction of the national identity, has intensified. The purpose of this study is to explore the South Korean identity as it is revealed in the national curriculum reform process. Reform in Korea's national curriculum has transformed the Korean identity several times. Therefore, by analyzing the process of Korean curriculum reform, this study reviews how the Korean identity has been formed and identifies several of the conflicts and changes that this identity has faced. The following section examines how the Korean identity, initially formed through traditional ethnic values, has transformed through the period of modernization. This identity change is placed and reviewed in its historical context. Section 3 examines the effort that have been put into transforming the Korean identity through national curriculum reform amid globalization, a phenomenon that has rapidly progressed since the 1990s. Section 4 discusses the conflicts within the challenges to Korean identity that are revealed by the Korea curriculum reform process. Second, historical context, formation, and transformation of Korean identity. national identity is formed and continuously transformed within historical, social, and political contexts. The identity of Koreans has continuously evolved throughout the long period of the nation's history. Korea was ruled by the royal dynasty until the early 20th century. It was then under the colonial administration of Imperial Japan from 1910 to 1945. In 1948, a republican system, which continued to the present day, was established. During the dynasty period, education was mainly centered on Confucianism, which eventually took root as the society dominant value system. Thus, the origin of Koreanness among Koreans are based on the Confucianism. Korean identity roots in Confucianism has been retained and restored despite Korea's tumultuous history. Of course, the Confucian tradition has been challenged by antagonistic discourses and practice over time. Because of this, it is difficult to state that these traditions are the same as the original traditions. However, the assertion that Confucianism is the origin of Koreanness and that it should be reflected to the national curriculum conflicts with the construction of a new identity in the modern context. This section describes the formation and transformation of Korean identity through the national curriculum, ranging from early transition Confucian education to the contemporary post-librarian education of the early 1990s. And traditional education, Confucianism. The long royal dynasty history of Korea comprises the period of three kingdoms, the Goryeo dynasty and the Joseon dynasty. Confucian ideas form the core political beliefs of this dynasty. Confucianism imposes such values as loyalty to the king, filial duty to one's parents, abstinence from sexual relationships, reverence of the young for the elder, and keeping faith between friends. These Confucian precepts operated as ideological truths for the strengths. 이거 잘 돼요. 네. This Confucian precepts operated as ideological truths for the strengthening of loyal authority and constitute a system that dominated people's daily lives throughout the long period between the beginning of the three kingdoms and the end of the Joseon dynasty. It ultimately developed into the Korea's fundamental value system. The educational system of the dynasty era also centered on Confucian ideas. Formal education was provided only to an elite male minority, and the main educational content was based on Chinese scriptures containing Confucian ideas. This former Confucian pedagogy was called yuhak. The main educational method of yuhak was interpreting and memorizing Chinese scriptures. Through yuhak, a sanbi was developed who was a person equipped with the kind of knowledge and character specified by Chinese scriptures. However, since former education revolved around reading and interpreting Chinese scriptures, and since its main objective was the training of bureaucrats, the original purpose of Korean identity formation as pursued through sanbi vanished after a number of generations. Greater value came to the place on document-centered theoretical knowledge than on practical or functional knowledge, and many people assiduously accumulated theoretical knowledge to enter the ranks of the social elite. This aspiration for theoretical knowledge established the high ideal for education that can be observed in Korean society today. Confucian values were emphasized not only through formal education but also through non-formal doctrinal structures, such as families. During the Joseon dynasty, the children of elite families learned Confucian values mainly through the Chinese sohak. The education provided through the sohak was intended to foster the basic Confucian lifestyle. Sohak is comparable to the Jewish Talmudic education or the noble education of European societies. It was regarded as training in the appropriate social norms and manners. Meanwhile, working class children learned Chinese culture and basic Confucian values through the Chinese Changjumun. As observed above, Confucianism, by being imposed as the core of instructional education as well as dominant social norm, played a critical role in establishing Confucian values in the lives of Koreans during the Korean Dynasty era. Confucian values remain alive today and serve as the foundation of the Korean identity. Modern education after opening door to the West. Modern schooling was introduced in Korea in the late 19th century. Traditional Korean society experienced significant external and internal changes after the mid-19th century, which affected the field of education as well. During this period, Korea suffered free trade and military threat from Western powers, which inevitably led to the opening of its doors to the West in 1876. During the Joseon dynasty, the last Korean dynasty. During this time, Christian missionaries from the West began to spread Christianity and contributed greatly to the establishment of Western-style schools. These schools provide the young with opportunities to pursue new areas of study by emphasizing English education and practical training. The schools also granted equal education opportunity regardless of the position or rank of the student's family. As a result of these changes, the Korean education system became westernized by the end of the 19th century. The traditional education system was abolished with the Gabo reform, which was carried out on a national scale in 1894 and was replaced by a new modern educational system. At the time, the Joseon dynasty emphasized education as a basis of preserving the nation and introduced the new educational system as a method of achieving national modernization. Furthermore, the dynasty aimed to expand education opportunities to include people at all social levels and to develop modern citizens who could contribute to national development. Regulations for elementary, middle, and high school education were enacted, and modern schools were then founded on these laws, replacing traditional education with westernized education. Educational programs were accordingly reorganized and westernized. These educational reforms failed to produce meaningful results because of resistance from those who reviewed Confucianism as the essence of Korean identity. Although the state hoped to create modern citizens through education, conservative powers that clung to Confucian tradition did not sympathize with this new educational direction. Furthermore, the existence of traditional Confucian values as the dominant norm in Korean society impeded the fostering of modern citizens through the new system of education. However, signs of changes in the Korean identity were visible as the adherence to traditional Confucian value began to coexist with the progressive fostering of modern citizens. Although Confucian values still were the basis of the Korean identity, Western values began to influence this identity after the education of modern citizens was introduced nationwide.